Let's begin with something simple but powerful. Most people are not distracted because they lack discipline. They are distracted because they lack direction. You see, when the destination isn't clear, every road looks acceptable. When you don't know exactly what you want, the world will gladly decide for you, and the world is very persuasive. It will offer you opportunities, invitations, notifications, conversations, and endless options. Without clarity, you will say yes to things that have nothing to do with your future. That's how distraction is born, not from weakness, from vagueness. If I were to ask most people what they want, they would give me a general answer. I want to be successful. I want to make more money. I want to be happy. Those are wishes, not targets. And you cannot focus on a wish. You can only focus on a target. Clarity is what separates the focused from the frustrated. When you are clear about what you want, something remarkable happens. Decisions become easier. The unnecessary becomes obvious. You no longer debate every opportunity. You measure it against your goal. If it fits, you keep it. If it doesn't, you eliminate it. But without clarity, everything feels urgent. You wake up and immediately respond to messages. You check what everyone else is doing. You react to the latest trend. You answer calls that could have waited. By the end of the day, you feel exhausted. And yet, when you ask yourself what you truly moved forward, the answer is very little. That's the cost of unclear priorities. Let me tell you something important. Activity is not progress. Being busy is not the same as being productive. You can climb the ladder all day long, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Clarity makes sure the ladder is leaning against the right wall. So how do you cut distraction off at its source? You begin by defining your direction with precision. Not in your head, on paper, because a goal that lives only in your mind is fragile. A goal written down becomes a commitment. Be specific. Instead of saying, I want more income, decide how much, decide by when, decide why. Instead of saying, I want better health, decide how many days a week you will exercise. Decide what you will eat. Decide what you will eliminate. Specificity creates focus. And here's something else to consider. When you are unclear about your goals, you borrow other people's goals. You chase what impresses others. You pursue what society celebrates. You compare your progress to someone else's timeline. That comparison becomes another distraction. Clarity protects you from comparison, because when you know what you are building, you stop being distracted by what others are building. A focused person understands this. Not every opportunity is an opportunity for them. Some things are good, but they are not good for you. And it takes clarity to recognize the difference. Let me give you an example. If your goal is to build a business, your evenings may need to look different. If your goal is to master a craft, your mornings may need to be protected. But if you are unclear, you will give your best hours to trivial things. Entertainment will take the place of education. Comfort will replace commitment, and you will wonder why progress feels slow. Clarity acts like a filter. Every request, every invitation, every task must pass through it. If it doesn't align, you decline. Not because you are rude, but because you are responsible. The disciplined life is not built on saying yes. It is built on knowing when to say no, and saying no becomes easier when you know what you are saying yes to. Here is the truth. You cannot eliminate distraction until you decide what deserves your attention. Attention is a limited resource. Once you give it away, you cannot get it back. Time is even more precious. It moves forward, whether you are focused or scattered. So ask yourself this: what am I building? What matters most in this season of my life? What must be protected at all costs? When those answers become clear, distraction loses its power, because clarity creates urgency. It reminds you that the days are not endless. It reminds you that your potential requires investment. It reminds you that your future is shaped by what you consistently prioritize. If you feel overwhelmed, it is often because you are trying to carry too many directions at once. Narrow your focus. Choose your top priorities, commit to them fully. You will find that energy increases when confusion decreases. The first victory over distraction is not deleting an app, it is defining your aim. Once the aim is defined, the unnecessary begins to fall away. And remember this, when the vision is clear, the distractions become obvious. Now, once the vision is clear, the next battle is not in your mind alone. It is in your environment. You can have powerful goals. You can have strong intentions. But if your environment is designed for distraction, your willpower will eventually lose. Let me explain something simple. Human behavior is heavily influenced by surroundings. We like to believe we are purely disciplined creatures, making independent decisions all day long. But the truth is, we respond to what is around us far more than we realize. If your phone is within reach, you will check it. If your television is on, you will glance at it. If your workspace is cluttered, your thinking will feel cluttered. Environment whispers instructions all day long. Now here is the problem. Most people are trying to win a focus battle inside a distraction factory. They wake up and immediately enter a digital storm: notifications, headlines, messages, opinions. Before they have given a single thought to their own priorities, they have consumed everyone else's. And then they say, "I just can't concentrate." It's not that you can't concentrate. It's that your environment is not built for concentration. If you are serious about cutting distractions off at the source, you must become intentional about what surrounds you. This requires courage, because sometimes the environment is not just objects, sometimes it is people. Let's start with the simple things. Your workspace should communicate clarity. When you sit down to work, your desk should not invite chaos. Papers scattered everywhere, random items in your line of sight, open tabs across your computer, each one pulls a small piece of your attention away. Clarity in space encourages clarity in thought. Clean the desk, close the unnecessary tabs, silence the non-essential notifications. Create an atmosphere where your mind can breathe. You see, focus is not just mental strength, it is structural support. If you make distraction convenient, you will use it. If you make focus convenient, you will strengthen it. Move the phone out of reach. Better yet, put it in another room during deep work. Schedule specific times to check messages instead of responding to every vibration. Train people around you to respect your focus hours. This may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to being immediately available. But remember, every time you allow interruption, you train others how to treat your time, and time, once lost, cannot be negotiated back. Now, let's go deeper. Your environment includes the conversations you allow. If you spend hours around individuals who constantly complain, criticize, and gossip, your mind will struggle to maintain productive thought. Negativity is a subtle distraction. It drains energy. It shifts attention from solutions to problems. You cannot expect to build a focused future while surrounded by scattered thinking. Choose carefully who has regular access to your attention. Not with arrogance, not with disrespect, but with wisdom. Protecting your focus is not selfish, it is strategic. And then there is the digital environment, perhaps the most powerful influence of our time. Social media platforms are engineered to capture and keep your attention. They are not neutral tools. They are designed to pull you in. Endless scrolling, constant updates, the illusion that something important might appear if you refresh one more time. If you do not consciously manage these tools, they will manage you. Ask yourself, is this app helping me build my goals, or is it helping me avoid them? There is nothing wrong with entertainment. There is nothing wrong with connection, but there must be boundaries. High performers do not eliminate enjoyment, they schedule it. That is discipline within the environment. Another aspect of environment is routine. The structure of your day determines the structure of your results. If you begin your day without a plan, the world will gladly supply one. Emails will become your priority. Random tasks will consume your hours, but if you begin with intention, clear tasks aligned with your vision, you step into the day prepared. You already know what deserves your best energy. The environment of your morning sets the tone for everything that follows. Protect the first hour, guard it fiercely, do not surrender it to noise. Understand this principle. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and systems are built through environment. If your kitchen is filled with unhealthy choices, willpower becomes difficult. If your schedule is filled with unnecessary meetings, focus becomes impossible. If your phone delivers constant alerts, silence becomes rare. So do not just promise to try harder. Redesign your surroundings. Make it easier to do what matters. Make it harder to do what distracts, because success is not only about inner strength, it is about outer structure. The disciplined person arranges their life in such a way that focus is the default, not the exception. You must become the architect of your environment. Remove what weakens you, add what strengthens you. Rearrange what supports you, protect what matters. When your environment begins to reflect your priorities, your behavior will follow. And when your surroundings support your focus, distraction loses its advantage. Design your environment wisely, and focus will no longer be a struggle. It will be your standard. Now let's talk about something deeper. Even with a clear vision, even with a well-designed environment, there is still one powerful source of distraction left: your emotions. Most people don't get distracted because they don't know what to do. They get distracted because they don't feel like doing it, and that is a very different problem. You see, distraction is often emotional escape in disguise. You scroll because you feel bored. You procrastinate because you feel overwhelmed. You check messages because you feel uncertain about the task in front of you. You say yes to things you shouldn't because you don't want to feel rejection. Emotions, when undisciplined, quietly control your day. And if your days are controlled, your future will be controlled as well. Let me tell you something important. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable leaders. They change quickly. They rise and fall. If you build your productivity around how you feel, you will build a very inconsistent life. The disciplined individual understands this. You do not act because you feel motivated. You act because you made a decision. Motivation is wonderful when it appears, but maturity is what keeps you moving when it disappears. Think about it. The hardest tasks are rarely physically impossible. They are emotionally uncomfortable. Starting the project feels uncertain. Making the sales call feels awkward. Studying feels demanding. Exercising feels tiring. So what do most people do? They seek relief, and relief is usually found in distraction. A quick video, a short scroll, a small snack, a random conversation. These things provide temporary comfort, but they delay progress, and that delay compounds over time. Here is the pattern. Discomfort appears, distraction offers relief, progress is postponed. If you want to cut distraction at the source, you must learn to sit with discomfort without running from it. That is emotional discipline. Understand this clearly. Growth always requires discomfort. If it were easy, everyone would live at their highest potential. The very reason so few achieve extraordinary results is because so few are willing to feel uncomfortable consistently. They want the reward without the resistance, but the resistance is the path. When you begin a meaningful task, your mind may resist. It may suggest something easier, something familiar, something entertaining. In that moment, you have a choice. Follow the feeling or follow the commitment. Every time you follow the feeling, you strengthen the habit of avoidance. Every time you follow the commitment, you strengthen the habit of discipline. Over time, those habits become character. And character determines destiny. Another emotional distraction is the need for approval. Many people lose focus because they are too concerned with how they are perceived. They hesitate to pursue bold goals because someone might criticize them. They interrupt their own progress to please others. But you cannot build a focused life if you are constantly managing other people's opinions. Approval is a moving target. No matter what you achieve, someone will question it. Someone will misunderstand it. If you allow that to dictate your actions, you will spend your energy trying to impress instead of trying to improve. Emotional strength means you can hear opinions without being controlled by them. It also means you can face boredom without escaping it. Boredom is not a crisis. It is often the gateway to deep work. The first few minutes of focused effort may feel dull. But beyond that initial resistance lies momentum. Most people never reach momentum because they quit at discomfort. And then there is fear, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of success itself. Fear can be one of the greatest distractions of all. Instead of confronting the task, people delay it. They organize instead of execute. They research endlessly instead of beginning. Fear dressed as preparation is still fear. The antidote is action. Small, consistent action reduces emotional chaos. When you take a step forward, clarity increases, confidence grows, emotion begins to stabilize, but waiting to feel confident before acting is like waiting for the ocean to calm before you sail. It may never happen. Learn to act while uncertain. Learn to move while uncomfortable. Learn to continue when motivation fades. That is emotional mastery, and here is something powerful when you consistently act in alignment with your goals. Even when you don't feel like it, your emotions begin to respect your decisions. You build internal trust. You prove to yourself that you are not ruled by temporary feelings. That trust becomes strength. And strength reduces distraction. Because once you understand that discomfort will not destroy you, you stop running from it. You stop looking for escape routes. You stop negotiating with your commitments. You simply do the work. And when you do the work consistently, your days become structured, your progress becomes visible, and your confidence becomes grounded. The world is full of distractions, yes, but the strongest ones are often internal. Master your emotions, and you remove the fuel that feeds distraction. And when feelings no longer dictate your actions, your discipline becomes unstoppable. Now let me bring you to something that may be the most powerful principle of all. What you repeatedly tolerate becomes your standard, not what you say you want, not what you post about, not what you intend to do, what you tolerate. Every time you allow a distraction to interrupt your priority without resistance, you lower your standard. Every time you delay something important and justify it with a small excuse, you send yourself a message. And that message is simple: this is acceptable. The mind listens, and once something becomes acceptable, it becomes normal. That is how distraction becomes lifestyle. You don't wake up one morning and decide to live below your potential. It happens gradually. You tolerate a late start. You tolerate unfinished tasks. You tolerate constant interruptions. You tolerate average effort, and little by little, your standards adjust downward to match your behavior. Here is the truth. Success is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in daily standards. If your standard is to respond to every notification immediately, you will live reactively. If your standard is to protect your focus hours, people will learn to respect them. If your standard is to complete what you start, your confidence will grow. Standards shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. Many people say they want excellence, but they tolerate mediocrity. They say they want progress, but they tolerate procrastination. They say they value time, but they waste it casually. You must decide what is no longer acceptable in your life, because the moment you raise your standard, you begin to eliminate distraction at its root. Let me explain something important. Discipline is not about intensity, it is about consistency, and consistency is built through non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are the rules you refuse to break, not because someone is watching, not because you feel inspired, but because you decided. For example, if you decide that your first hour each morning belongs to your growth, that becomes a standard. Not a suggestion, a standard. If you decide that during work blocks your phone remains out of reach, that becomes a standard. When something becomes a standard, it no longer requires debate, and debate is where distraction sneaks in. Every time you negotiate with yourself, you weaken your authority. Just 5 minutes, just one video, I'll start tomorrow. Those small negotiations accumulate. They seem harmless, but over time, they erode discipline. High achievers do not rely on constant motivation. They rely on personal standards that eliminate negotiation. Here is a question worth asking. If someone observed your daily habits, what would they conclude your standards are? Would they see focus? Would they see intentionality? Or would they see reaction and randomness? Your behavior reveals your standards more honestly than your words ever will. Now understand this: raising your standard may feel uncomfortable at first. When you begin saying no to distractions, some people may resist. When you stop participating in unproductive conversations, others may question you. When you protect your time more aggressively, you may feel guilty. But discomfort is often the price of growth. You cannot elevate your life while maintaining low standards. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often not talent, it is tolerance. Ordinary individuals tolerate things that extraordinary individuals refuse. They refuse to tolerate wasted mornings. They refuse to tolerate poor preparation. They refuse to tolerate scattered attention. And because they refuse, their lives reflect strength. Let me give you something practical. Choose 3 standards that will define your days. Simple, clear, measurable. Perhaps it is finishing the most important task before noon. Perhaps it is exercising 5 days a week. Perhaps it is limiting entertainment to specific hours. Whatever you choose, protect it fiercely, because every time you honor your standard, you reinforce your identity as a disciplined person. And identity is powerful. When you begin to see yourself as focused, you behave differently. When you see yourself as reliable, you follow through. When you see yourself as someone who does not tolerate distraction, you naturally remove it. But if you see yourself as someone who struggles with focus, you unconsciously accept distraction as part of who you are. Standards rewrite self-image, and self-image directs action. So the real question is not, how do I remove every distraction? The real question is, what am I no longer willing to tolerate? Make that decision firmly. Not emotionally, not temporarily, but permanently. Because once your standards rise, your habits align. When your habits align, your results improve. And when your results improve, your confidence expands. It all begins with what you allow. Raise your standards and distractions will no longer feel tempting. They will feel unacceptable.